Yo, what's cracking, guys? Let's talk a little bit about self-sabotage. I got my cheat sheet up here on my screen, basically just the definition or my definition of self-sabotage. Uh, I think it lines up perfectly with what I go through and what I've experienced for most of my life. So we'll make this a quick one. I do want to kind of a odd but funny thing. I've had a lot of people ask me, or if I'm bald, or tell me that I must be bald because I wear a cap, and just want to go on the record and say, well, guess what? You are wrong. I am not bald. Yes, I'm 45 years old and I still have hair. Imagine that. Um, my birth father is 82 and still has a full head of hair, so I guess I got lucky with the genetics. So good deal on that. But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. But there you go. So let's talk a little bit about self sabotage. I'm just gonna read quickly from my screen here, just a little bit of a cheat sheet. The definition, or my definition for the most part, of self sabotage. Self sabotage is when you engage in behaviors or thoughts that undermine your own goals, values, and well being, creating obstacles to success, often unconsciously due to deep seated fears like failure, low self worth, or past trauma, manifesting as procrastination, negative self talk, or picking fights in relationships despite wanting a better outcome. It is a protective, and then, in parentheses, though counterproductive, mechanism where your subconscious creates familiar negative patterns to avoid perceived risks, even if it means sabotaging your dreams. So, yes, 100%. I mean, well, I'd say probably 98% of that is true for me personally. I've experienced self sabotage, ever since I was a kid. There was a lot of things that I wanted to do, to, I guess, be in a different place that say that I am now. There's things I wanted to accomplish, goals I wanted to accomplish. I had short-term goals, I had long-term goals. I saw myself in a much, different position and in a different place, different environment than what I'm in now. And do I necessarily consider it a failure that I'm not there as we speak? No, I do not. But what tends to happen for me, at least mentally, is I have several projects that I'm working on right now, and we have discussed in previous videos, and I know Nigel with Squat Master Productions has mentioned this as well. Uh, you know, we start many projects and tend to not finish a single one. That's definitely true for me. I have several projects I'm working on right now, and none of them are near completion. Um, but I guess in terms of self sabotage, what happens to me, or at least in my mindset, is I get a taste of success. I get a taste of, okay, say I have a project and I have several different steps I need to complete in order to complete that goal or finish that project. And I understand some projects are technically, never completed. Like documentation, in many cases, it's a living, breathing thing. There's always changes to be made. That's fine. But with all of those steps needed to complete that project, say I'll complete, two or three out of 10 steps. Um, with each step that I've completed, I think, hey, this is great. I'm one step closer to my goal. I'm one step closer to completing this project. And I get a kind of I guess, a dopamine rush, for lack of a better explanation. I get kind of a sense of, I get kind of a high, if that makes sense. I get this feeling that, wow, I'm close to completing this project. I've got a step done. Now I need to put, one foot in front of the other, take the next step forward, and complete the next step. And I do that. Sometimes it may take a lot longer than necessary, but I'll get to a certain point. I'll get maybe to step 5 of 10, and I still continue to get that dopamine rush and that high that hey, I'm getting closer and closer and closer to the end goal, and I'm already thinking at this point what the end goal is. Where I should be, where I want to be, and what could become of that, and I get excited. It just gets me, kind of elevated mentally, so to speak. But then something happens and my mindset just kind of shifts or changes. And then I think, maybe I don't deserve this after all. Maybe I'm just, just a screw up, and maybe I'm not really doing what I need to do. I start looking how other people are doing things, maybe similarly to mine or to what I'm doing, and maybe I'm judging myself based on what they've completed, which, I hate doing and I know I shouldn't do. But I like to look at, projects, similar projects that others are completing, like, starting a business. There's so many different variables to starting a business, so many different steps. Everybody does, things so much different than the next. It's not really fair to yourself to compare your progress to another person's progress, because, you know, what they put into their project, even if you put the same amount of time and effort and resources into your project, you're not going to get the same outcome. So it's not really fair to say, okay, you know, if I complete these same steps and I don't get that same, outcome, then I'm just a complete failure. Obviously, I screwed up somewhere and I don't deserve this. And that's kind of something I'm trying to get away from. But I just feel like it's mostly mental. I get to a certain point, I get a taste of success. I get a website built. I get, the logistics set up for getting this business up and running, which, I'll go over that in another video. I get to a point where I think, okay, I can smell success. I get a taste of it. I can see it. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can see the finish line. And then something happens. Something intercepts my thought process, and the negativity just traverses my mind and just completely derails me. And at that point, I'm thinking, okay, I don't deserve this, or I'm just, I'm not doing this right. And I just can't seem to pull myself out of it. And then that causes me to procrastinate. And at that point, I don't want to say I give up on it, because I always return to it at some point. But rather than returning to it the same day or a couple days later after taking a little break, I end up returning to it, months later. And at that point, everything I'm working on is, either outdated, or, some of the variables that, would have applied, previously are no longer applicable to the project I'm working on, because those steps, those variables, those processes and procedures are not applicable anymore. So I need to change. I need to adapt. I need to switch things up. And when you're starting a business and when you're doing just about anything in life, it all comes down really to two things, and that's speed and execution. The person that executes a half-assed project is more often more successful than the person who doesn't execute a perfect project, or that even attempts to execute what they deem to be or perceive to be a perfect project. That they may be thinking, okay, I have all the steps completed. I have everything done. Now I'm ready to launch. Now I'm ready to roll. And as soon as you do, everything just comes crashing down, and you just feel like you've just wasted all this time, months, years. And that's kind of where I'm at. I just feel like something always happens, either an event, be it, personal life or with family, or something environmental, or just something in my own, in my own head. And some of that, yeah, it's depression, it's ADHD, but it's that negativity that just hits me. And I just feel like, I've just failed. Like, okay, I just need to scrap this and start over or move on to something else. And then when that happens, obviously I never get anything done. I never accomplish anything. So self-sabotage is definitely something that I've dealt with my entire life, and I've been trying to find ways to circumvent that or mitigate the effects of that. And I feel like, writing things down, this also helps my ADHD as well, but I feel like writing things down, making a list of short-term goals, and then bullet points underneath each one of those short-term goals, each one of those steps to basically outline, okay, here's your goal, here's the steps needed to achieve that goal, and then, okay, complete, and then so on and so forth. And then, you move on to the next one until eventually you reach your long-term goal, which is basically a conglomeration, or, all of the short-term goals and steps combined. So, it's extremely difficult to do, I think, without the, those, I guess I would refer to it as assistive resources. With me, it's note-taking. It's writing things down. It's having a plan. I have, with ADHD, back when I was working in tech, I mean, there was a certification that I went and took for Citrix. If you're not familiar with it, just Google it. That could be a whole nother video, but I'd rather not. But it's a virtualization platform, and basically and so much more. But that was a certification that basically you need to have 6 months to a year plus, actual hands-on real-world experience in order to even understand the exam, let alone complete it and pass it. It's one of those exams where the first 6 or 7 questions are simulations where you have to basically hands-on, click this, type that, move this around, configure this, configure that, to show them that you're proficient in that technology, that that shows that you can support that technology in say a client or a customer environment, and of course earn the certification. But it's basically to show proficiency with that platform or technology. And then after that is like another 50, 60 multiple choice questions, and the simulations obviously carry more weight than the multiple choice questions. If you miss even just one of those, or even two, even if you get all the multiple choice questions right, you can almost bet that you're going to fail the entire exam, just because you failed one or two of those simulations because they're weighted so heavily. But I guess where I'm getting at with that is, as far as the ADHD goes, that's something. Okay, I had my home lab, I was playing with it, configuring it, and I was not spending nearly the amount of time on it that I probably should have to have passed that exam. But rather, instead, I set the exam date, because when I didn't have an actual date set, or a deadline, I just keep putting it off. But if I had a hard date set, okay, on this date and this time, this is when I take the exam, so I have no choice now but to bust ass, because otherwise I'm going to fail the exam. And whatever you pay, usually, I think at that time it was $325 to take that exam. And if you fail that $325 is gone. You have to pay that again, which I do believe certifications are a bit of a money grab, and they don't always prove that you're proficient in something. I did have the experience though to back it up, so that's another. But I put it off literally until the last minute. I think it was the week of the exam. I had it on a Friday, and it was a Monday when I realized, oh crap, I'm working my day job. I haven't hardly studied this that much, so I'm going through, I'm studying, and I'm just literally last minute. I went in and I passed it. But I procrastinate. I put things off to the last minute. If I don't have a hard date set or a deadline set, I tend to just procrastinate and not get things done. And I also attribute that to self-sabotage in a sense too. I've always been good, at least on the ADHD side of things, to be able to pull things out literally last minute and get it done. But it just feels like when I have a goal in mind and I have something I need to do where I want to do, and I start completing the steps, and I start seeing or getting a taste of success, and I get that dopamine, that high, that rush, and I'm feeling good. It's a natural, like, full body high. And that negativity, the negativity comes through, something happens and it just derails me. And I often, succumb to it, or give into it, and then it's just, I end up putting it off for a month, a couple months, or in some cases forever. I just say the hell with it, and I just scrap it, and I don't even come back to it. And then later on, I have the feeling of regret, like I've wasted my time, I've wasted other people's time, and I just it sucks. That's one thing that I really want to work on, especially for the new year, is trying to, as I said before, circumvent, get around or mitigate the effects of self-sabotage. Try to just, smash that entire concept, because it has plagued me for so long. I've given into that for so long, and I've allowed those negative feelings to overcome and consume everything, my thought process and the things that I'm doing, and they would otherwise allow me to proceed and move forward and actually accomplish a goal or complete a task. And that's definitely something that I need to work on. I'm curious, anyone and everyone else that sees this video, let me know if you've experienced self-sabotage and how you've dealt with it. What steps have you taken to circumvent or mitigate the effects of it? I'm extremely curious. That is one thing that I can honestly say that I've dealt with for so long. As long as I've dealt with depression and other things, and it has really impacted. It has had a profound impact on my life and the ability to just get things done, because I just feel, you know, almost like another side of me or an outside force, or something in my head just derails me to the point that, oh no, you can't do this, you're not going to be successful, you don't deserve success, you're not going to be as good as the next person, you know but you shouldn't really care about what the next person's doing. I mean, if you want to study someone else that's doing something similar to you, hey, great. I do think you should surround yourself by positive people, and by people that like-minded people, especially if you're trying to start a business. Where are you trying to start a business in? Are you trying to start like your own consulting company, or whatever you're trying to start a company? And try to surround yourself with others who have already done that. Surround yourself with people that know more than you, and try to network and soak up that knowledge. Not because you want to be like them, but because you want to become a better version of yourself. So definitely hit up the comments below. Do a reply video, something, anything, because I am really curious. I would really like to know how you guys have dealt with, if you've experienced self-sabotage and how you've dealt with it, and just kind of what your overall thoughts are regarding that topic. That's probably it for a day or two. If y'all celebrate the holidays, happy holidays, and hope you guys are doing well out there. And I will talk to you next time. Peace.